I've got one. I think it's a winner.
I want to hear it.
I'm talking with James Dow, whose voice you just heard, and David Jones from the Brandtech Group. James is their generative AI creative director, and David is the founder and CEO. They're about to show me a magic trick. Okay, so my idea for a product and a brand would be, I want to make a toothpaste for fans of liquid death. Okay, it's not actually a magic trick, but so much of generative AI can feel a bit like a gimmick or complete smoke and mirrors. So a toothpaste that takes the aesthetic and attitude of heavy metal and punk rock in a unique packaging and label design that will attract a young, rebellious audience that likes to laugh at brand work and brand comedy.
That's good.
Like imagery around like early Iron Maiden album covers.
Tragically, this is not video because I would go into the closet behind me and get out my Eddie Killer's head on the back of my denim jacket that my sister's friend embroidered for me when I was 16.
Amazing. Amazing.
I will get that at the end of the call.
Nice. Yes. What James and David are showing me is a demo of how they create an entire brand from scratch using only generative AI, which is what we are about to do with my heavy metal toothpaste brand. But just building it with AI is not the magic trick. The trick is how fast they do it.
One of the things that we also see a lot is that even people who are doing quite a lot with GenAI are really using it in a very niche way. And so in order to basically showcase how much potential there was, James and I decided that we would create a brand from scratch in 59 minutes.
We aren't just talking about a name and a logo. The promise of this brand in 59 minutes includes a suite of graphics, social media posts, press releases, a business plan, and just about any other asset you need to start pitching investors or go to market with. Something that would normally take months of work. But is this just a gimmick? Will it just spit out some clunky generic assets, or will this actually make something good?
I had a little play. The name is Plaque Slayer. The variant we are launching is Mint Carnage. And the end line is Murder Your Morning Breath.
Guys, I think I'm gonna be rich. I'm Jeff Beer, and this is Brand New World from Fast Company. Today's episode, the 59-minute brand. Before we bring my brilliant idea to life, let's rewind a bit for some background on David Jones and the Brandtech Group. A few weeks before David, James, and I hopped on a Zoom to build Plaque Slayer, David came to meet me at Fast Company's office in New York. I wanted to know what led David to start the Brandtech Group. Like many successful founders, his current success was preceded by a past failure.
One of the reasons I created my company was lessons that I learned through the creator economy, and the best-selling, or one of the best-selling Harvard Business School case studies, very successful case study, tells the story of me being unsuccessful. And basically,
which one's that?
So go back. It's called Havas Change Faster. So I was running Havas at the time, big global public listed communications group. And I thought the creator economy was going to be really big. This is like 2010. And I thought, okay, the best way of disrupting and driving change through Havas is I will buy the world's first and largest creator economy company, which is a company called Victors and Spoils.
Oh, yeah.
And John Windsor, genius founder, and they just won Harley Davidson and all this. So convinced John to join us. I named him Chief Innovation Officer. Now, what the case study tells the story of is that despite the fact that my investors thought this was a really good idea, buying a creator economy company, and despite the fact that my clients were like, oh my God, this is amazing, come see us immediately, most of the people who worked for me looked at me and went, he's an idiot. We have this highly expensive creative department and we make our money by selling that highly expensive creative department to our clients. you can't possibly say that everyone can create and everyone will be able to make a. And so now, obviously, the rest is history. There are now 60 million people who work in the creator economy today. And, I left Havas and created Brandtech. But what it taught me was it's really hard to change big, established legacy businesses. But B, I think the learning from today is back in 2010, 11, everyone said, no, but like normal people can't possibly create. Fast forward to today, the content that influencers create, the content that creators create is amazing. It's exceptional. And we will go through exactly the same journey with, whether you want to call it generative AI or machine-generated content, it will be exceptional. And the fact that on day one it isn't exceptional, but it will be really soon.
Yeah.
And if you want to actually be able to be one of the greatest creative people in the world, you've got to jump on board this. I mean, I personally think we're going to see the greatest creative revolution in history.
It's funny how you see things where people make early bets. I mean, the case study, it's a funny story about being a failure, but it's not. I mean, I wonder if they would add like a appendix or an addendum to that, because it's like, what did you learn from, I don't say the dangers, but about being ahead of the curve and how to invest in these things? How did that help you when it came to AI? Because certainly we hear a lot of hype around AI and certainly a lot of concern, but what did you learn about betting early on things that helped you today?
So look, I think the Brandon 59 minutes is actually an example of that.
Okay.
Because what I learned was just because you might think it's obvious or some people might think it's obvious doesn't mean that everyone thinks it's obvious. And actually, Professor Mike Tushman, who teaches the Harvard case, that was his key point, is that actually, I got my investors on board. My clients adored it, but I didn't bring my people with me because they didn't get it. And I think that is one of the big lessons, and it's why it's like, well, okay, if you're sitting there and you kind of think that this is going to be huge, but at the moment, all the little examples are niche, clearly there will be huge examples, but before they're there, create one. But this has sort of been a theme across my career and life, and the frustrating thing about it is you're early, everyone thinks you're stupid. And then it actually becomes, oh, you're doing AI too, yeah. So no, we've been doing it since 2015. So, I launched Australia's first internet agency in 1998. And back then...
What was it called?
It was Eurosg Interaction.
Okay,
so
got it.
It was the first. And literally, back in 98, 99, we had 200 people in an interactive agency with we were booking 40% of all online media in Australia. The market was obviously pretty embryonic. I was named the inaugural chairman of the Australian Digital Advertising Association, and I was like 12.
Amazing.
But the reaction, honestly, people were like, but why are you doing this? You're not a tech company. And back in 1998, when someone said tech company, it's not like today. They go, oh, that's cool. It was like, rank Xerox photocopier salespeople. And then obviously it kind of exploded. But back then, none of us, even those of us who were super excited about the internet, none of us thought you would ever be able to watch a video on a desktop computer, let alone a laptop computer, and forget a mobile phone. And now,
what's that?
Yeah, exactly. If I jump on a plane to Paris or London and you can't live stream a Netflix documentary on the plane Wi-Fi, you're really pissed off. And you literally go, in 1998, none of us knew what Wi-Fi was. And the big lessons about how it changes, I mean, we had a very, very successful company because our big clients were Nokia, the only mobile phone anyone ever wanted, Dell, the world's #1 laptop company, Intel, who made all the chips, and Yahoo, who were in a league of their own in terms of the most amazing of the portals back then. And I remember my boss at the time, Bob Schmetterer, being invited to keynote Yahoo's annual meeting. And it was a bit like Steve Jobs had phoned and said, will you come and keynote? And then obviously look where we are today. And, not all of those companies have gone out of business, but it's a very different world. And it's going to be the same. And I think that's what's remarkable and exciting is if you look at what generative AI is already capable of, it's already pretty brilliant. Mm-hmm. And we'll look back on what it can do today in 5 or 10 years and go, do you remember when it was so crap?
There is value, like David and I talked about, in being too early to adopt a new technology or jump on a trend. David saw value in the creator economy in 2010. He started a digital-first agency in 1998. Even if generative AI is crap now, it won't be for long. I wanted to get a bit more perspective when it comes to how agencies are building AI models to cater to brand clients, and also how the brands themselves are thinking about these tools. For this, I like to chat with a guy named Nilesh Ashra. Nilesh is originally from the UK, and not only is he brilliant because he's a fellow supporter of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, but he also happens to have university degrees in AI and quantum computing. Even better than that, he's utilized his technology work as a creative tool, starting his career at a legendary London agency called Poke, and went on to head up creative tech at Wieden & Kennedy. Now he's a consultant, founding his own company called OK Tomorrow, through which he consults with major global companies on a variety of things. Lately, it's been about setting up strategies for how GenAI can help their brand. I called Nilesh up in Portland, Oregon to pick his brain a bit on how CMOs and brand leaders are and should be thinking about GenAI tools.
I'll be honest, like most of my conversations do start with I'm going to get more bang for my buck now, right? They hear from me anyway, a similar thing to what you've heard from me around, well, okay, there might be some 10% gains there, but I don't think that's really going to solve your problem. What if we just believe for a second, because I do, that creativity is a way to get not 10%, but like 10x more? Like, what if we worked on that problem? What if we thought about creativity as like an energy equation? And currently, all the coefficients are wrong. Nobody has enough energy to throw at the actual problem, and we're ending up stuck in administration, in operation, and in ops, in politics, in just like infrastructure, and only in fleeting moments. It's like a miracle we managed to produce anything creative at all. Right. So what if we could solve that? And then that's really, that becomes something you can sort of hang your hat on. And then one more that I'll add on to that is a brand, like the definition of a brand, it often lives in like a couple of static documents inside an organization. Like there's this like phenomenal narrative that a bunch of really brilliant people spent like 2 years writing. And it's like, it makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up and you go, gosh, that is why we exist. And this is genuinely inspiring. And like, I've got 20 ideas just from listening to this because it's totally reframed the business we're in. I think the problem is like, it doesn't scale very well. Like it sits on a Google Drive somewhere as a deck, and you have to be in the room with the right people to make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. And there's so much operational inertia that by the time like the mid-level marketer is briefing some seasonal campaign brief, it's very hard to connect it to that. So I think I've heard a lot of interest, and I'm actively working on just how to make like the mission and vision of a brand a living member of the marketing culture.
Okay.
The same way that by the time something ends up in a large language model, it sort of becomes like agentic, and you can kind of like push and pull it and adapt it and combine it with, you can say, retell me this part, but as if it was written by someone in the Roman Empire. It becomes plastic in a way that I think is really appealing. And I think there's sort of a pattern there to make a brand's definition something that can imprint and influence much more broadly the work. So there's another example of something I think that marketing leaders, at least from my conversations with them, are really interesting in sort of working with us on.
That's really interesting. Like the idea that you could have this like a GenAI tool that becomes kind of your brand shaman in a way that's like, it's like you're going to, like it makes it living and breathing because you can put in problems, but the lens through which it is interpreting your problems is informed by, say, that document that you're talking about, like that, like.
And even in that, I think we all have this assumption that our interaction with this technology is like in a call response chatbot. And I think we'll look back in 5 years and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that's what we thought. Like, I think it's as likely that we'll be producing 3-minute automated, very entertaining podcast snippets just for the marketing organization to keep that vision going. And the 3-minute snippet is influenced by what happens to be briefed or not briefed in the organization. Like, I don't think this sort of expert sage that you ask questions to is it.
Okay.
And I think like it's the habits. Like if you think about the habits of a marketing organization, the question is, and I think the opportunity is to rewire the intellectually curious habits of all of a marketing or creative organization. And I think putting this tool in the middle of that habit kind of reinvention is, I think, one of the most interesting ideas I've ever worked on. Yeah, to sort of reimagine that, because then you're sort of, again, steering an organization away from sinking a lot of its energy into things that creatively don't matter to having the opportunity to work mostly on things that really do matter.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, I'm going to dive into the moves David and the Brandtech Group have been making over the past year. And we'll check back in on Plaque Slayer. So my soon-to-be billion-dollar toothpaste brand has its name and first flavor variation. Let's see what the guys generate next. I'm unreasonably excited about this product and brand.
Okay, let's do this. Let's take all the best heavy metal tracks and make names for toothpaste flavors. Mintalica, Spearmint Reaper, Cavity Slayer, Peppermint Prisoner, Eucalyptus of Destruction.
Eucalyptus, I like that.
Brush it like you stole it.
Brush it like you stole it. That's a t-shirt.
Fluoride for the Devil.
While James is going over the different flavor name variations, David's been working on the first piece of visual branding, our package design.
I've done a pack design,
Yeah.
which I can show if you like. How's that? It's not bad, huh?
I mean, we've been talking for like less than 5 minutes. That's pretty damn good. The design that's been generated is a black toothpaste tube with silver lettering for Plaque Slayer and mint green lettering for Mint Carnage. The font is sort of reminiscent of the Metallica logo. The tube also features a skull with mint green eyes and dripping white teeth on a backdrop of crossed swords and mint leaves. We'll post the images in our show notes so you can see for yourself.
I think it goes back to that point. Do we think if we got, the most genius people in the world to create something that it would be better? Yes, probably. But honestly, could we launch now Plaque Slayer, the Mint Carnage variation?
I mean, look at that. The black alone. I mean, think about your typical toothpaste aisle and all the nice icy blues and whites and maybe the Colgate red. But
I think what's really interesting about the intelligence of the models, it knows that mint is green. So it knows. I didn't, literally, if you look at if I scroll up and put my prompt in, I literally just said, do me a pack design in heavy metal style of the toothpaste brand Plaque Slayer, the variant Mint Carnage, and the line Murder Your Morning Breath. And I didn't say I want it to be, black and I want the green to be singing out and please use a skull. And I think what's interesting as well, like we're doing this in 10 seconds. We could do 50 of these and sit down and go, actually, we love that element from that. We like this. So yeah, I think we've said this all along. We fundamentally believe that generative AI is going to create the greatest creative revolution in history, and it augments human creativity. And it's not about undermining, replacing, destroying. And that's why we call pencil, because it's a tool for humans to use.
Okay, stepping back from Plaque Slayer again, David just brought up one of the tools he's using here. The Brandtech Group made a spree of AI acquisitions over the past year. The company's crown jewel is Pencil, which it acquired in 2023. Pencil uses AI to create static and video ad creative. And as of December, it's already generated more than 2.35 million ads for more than 5,000 brands and processed $2.65 billion in media spend since 2018. Soon after the acquisition, the company launched a premium platform called Pencil Pro, with Unilever and Bayer as launch partners. Midway through last year, Brandtech claimed it had already produced an average 48% drop in an ad's cost per action and a 78% boost in return on ad spend compared to the brand's baseline. These acquisitions are, in many ways, the culmination of the Brandtech Group's founding principles. I want to rewind a little bit, but you touched on the founding of Brandtech and originally as you and Mr. Jones, you being Mr. Jones.
Indeed.
I believe that some of the founding principle was there was an AI element to it. And this is in 2015?
Yeah.
I want to unpack that a little bit because for a lot of people, obviously machine learning, AI, a lot of that was a very ambiguous language when it came to tech platforms and the tools that it was most all in the background. We as a regular person wasn't using it for asking questions or creating things. So in 2015, how does that become a founding principle and how are you thinking about it then compared to now?
So the core kind of foundation of the company was a belief you could do all marketing better, faster, and cheaper using technology. So the company was called You and Mr. Jones. I described it as the world's first Brandtech group, and we took out the trademark on Brandtech in 2015. And then we had creator economy, user-generated content as one big vertical, and machine-generated content and AI as another. And so we started investing in, and in fact, I made a lot of friends in the advertising industry in the UK by saying that, in the future, machines would be creating, it's just humans don't like to think that. And I think one of the particular quotes was that I would rather have a fast, efficient machine than a slow, grumpy creative with a big ego, which is true. But
still true.
Yeah. And in the raise deck, so we raised around $300 million to launch the company. And I had a number of things in there. One was a picture of the New York Stock Exchange today and 40 years ago. And on the left, there were loads of people with bits of paper and telephones running around taking orders. And today it's kind of empty with a Bloomberg set and it's all electronic. But interestingly, there's just as many people in the financial industry today as there were back then, and they're probably making a lot more money, so I think there's an interesting lesson about this isn't necessarily going to remove jobs. It may well create a lot. And then I do this demo. There was an app I had, and I would literally say to the investors I was chatting to, I say, look, just pick an object in this room and I'm going to destroy it with a rocket and show you a video instantaneously that will actually look like I just did that. And the point I would make then was, I just did something instantaneously that would have cost $200,000 and taken a bunch of time. And so we just had this kind of profound belief, or I had this profound belief that AI and generative AI was going to be big. Actually, we probably weren't calling it generative back then. And so we started investing in AI chatbots in 2016. We did the world's first AI chatbot for an influencer, Kalani Hilliker, for CoverGirl back in 2016. So she would post, and then you could actually exchange with her AI chatbot. We did AI media planning and AI data, invested in a company called Crossing Minds. And then in 2018, we invested in a company called AI Foundation, and I went on the board. Now, AI Foundation were building AI twins of people. And there's a great episode of Jimmy Kimmel where Deepak Chopra takes digital Deepak on Jimmy Kimmel, and Deepak's AI twin takes the audience through a guided meditation. Now, in truth, back then, the episode looks great. Once you kind of went outside the guardrails and started going, hey, Deepak, where'd you go on holiday? It started hallucinating. But what you could see was like, when this becomes good, it's going to be quite remarkable. And that led to looking for a company that was using generative AI to make ads end to end. And there was only one in the world I could find, a company called Pencil. The brilliant founder, Will Hanschel, met him, and Will and Sumuk, the two founders of Pencil. And we kind of hit it off around a belief that we actually thought that, the future of advertising and marketing would have a huge amount of AI in it, and most people didn't. Long story short, I said to him, look, why don't you join us and we can help put a rocket behind this and turbocharge it to the next level, because we have a lot of access to big global clients. You have amazing technology. He'd proven the platform on SMB. So we acquired Pencil. We launched Pencil Pro because the core product was an SMB, and obviously our core clients are the enterprise. It was founded in 2018. Today, it's the only GenAI platform that has, made over 1 million ads using generative AI across 5,000 brands, has put $1 billion of media through the platform, was named by Fast Company as one of the world's most innovative companies.
Indeed.
And it's really kind of in a league of its own what it can do. And I think we're just seeing the most unbelievable interest and demand from clients for it.
When you say created 1 million ads, the first thing that comes to my mind is more the kind of, for lack of a better term, the grunt work ads of like online ads and or banner ads, things like that. In terms of, can you describe kind of the nature or the scope or spectrum of those ads? Because I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, have I seen one of those? Which ones are those?
In simple terms, it aggregates all of the latest and greatest models. So from ChatGPT to Gemini to Stability to Adobe Firefly, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the kind of inputs. And then the outputs, it outputs directly to TikTok, Instagram. You connect it to the ad accounts. And then in the middle, you basically arrive and decide, okay, what is it you want to do? Do you want, just a pack shot? Do you want just an insight? Do you want a finished TikTok video? Do you want a finished Instagram post? And then you go through the process of prompting and creating that. And so, the first thing that's really unique about it is like no one has actually built a tool that does that. B, it's predictive. So because of that billion-dollar data set, as you go along, everything you do, you'll get a prediction, and it will either be orange, green, or blue. Orange means based on what we have in your ad account, we believe that this is going to perform in the bottom 25%. So bottom line is you shouldn't run that.
Right.
If it's green, it's based on everything we have in the data set. We think it's going to perform in the top 25. And blue is we don't have data and we don't know, therefore it's probably worth trying. So that data loop and that predictive element is really key, as is the fact that it's plugged into the ad account. So yeah, I mean, the best use case is it's the social content, the mobile content, the e-commerce content. So it is TikTok videos, Instagram videos, YouTube videos, but not just that. I mean, we did a big campaign for Lancel, the French luggage brand. We actually did a lot of the work for the IOC, for all the refugee Olympic team, and the posters that we created for that campaign for the Olympic refugee team were all done in Pencil, and it will do more and more. And I think, the journey it's on, back in 2018, 1 in 10,000 ads you could actually use. Today, it's 100%. And then it's about what you decide. And then you basically set it up, like what's important to you? Is it ROAS or click-through or something else? And it will optimize as you go along, and it will tell you when ads are starting to wear out. But across that data set, we have been able to prove that it is, on average, 10 times faster, at least 50% cheaper, and delivers 2x the performance. So we're getting 161% uplift levels on TikTok and Instagram. And I think that's why, I talk about, we're often in the sort of the third phase of I think, brand rollout of GenAI or of Pencil. Like phase 1 sort of 2 years ago was, this is interesting, but not sure. And our legal people are saying, I'll get fired if we do this. Sort of, fast forward, a year, it was like, we should pilot this. We now get how we can use this, safely. And yes, we can own copyright. And yes, we can be sure that no one's going to be, training with our data and all those kind of things. And so can we do a pilot? And now what we're seeing is, okay, can we now do scaled deployment globally as soon as possible, please?
Wow.
And that's 2 years.
The Brandtech Group aren't the only ones building AI tools for brands to enhance their marketing and advertising. All the major holding companies, from WPP to Publicis to Omnicom, have been crafting their own versions of these tools. These conglomerates are working with companies like Microsoft, OpenAI, Google, Adobe, and more to create tools trained on their successful strategies, creative work, and philosophies. They use these tools to help inform and evaluate new work and ideas. One of those companies is Omnicom-owned agency network TBWA. Last June, the company announced its CollectiveAI platform. TBWA claims that the platform includes an AI tool that is trained on the company's past work to create social content and brand materials for clients. Another tool on the platform helps translate the company's DE&I values, helping it create more diverse casting, programs, and partnerships. I wanted to get a better sense of how CollectiveAI was working, so I met with Omnicom Advertising Group's Chief Operating Officer, Deepthi Prakash. First, I asked her how the tools TBWA developed internally work.
We decided to appoint a global head of AI. I think you met him, Michael Horn.
Yeah.
Who is terrific and super passionate.
He gave me a great tour of what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So Michael dove right in, took the charge, and started to really work with our legal partners, our client teams, our new business teams, to really vet and validate all of the different use cases.
Okay.
And that got us started. So we were then able to develop products that were specific to different services that we provide. So whether that's social media or, B2B, services, even, helping our DE&I team to develop an internal tool called Inclusive AI, which allows both, people to kind of ask the questions that you're maybe embarrassed to ask, but you're a well-meaning person who wants to be respectful, but you don't really want to ask someone questions. And so this tool helps them to navigate that, but also helps them in terms of the work that they do and to say like, hey, is this piece of work something that would be sensitive to this particular audience and to get feedback on those sorts of things. So he's taken the charge to develop tools that are specific to the different services that we offer, and then also working with our innovation teams to figure out how can we use this to really take it to the next level and build experiences that, we really couldn't do before AI was around.
Yeah. She also told me that employees use AI to test out creative ideas.
We had a lot of input from clients asking us questions about, hey, can you use AI to do blank?
Okay.
Don't come to me with a creative idea if you haven't validated it. Can you use AI to just validate the creative idea? So then I don't have to make a decision based on what I feel. I can make it based on what I know. And so that's what gives you, it leads you to like, hey, what about the synthetic research where we take 50,000 personas and reviews and blogs and comments and build an audience that can then evaluate this piece of work and tell you what about it works and what about it doesn't work. So then when you go into a client, you're that much more confident. So our first kind of thing was we've got all these great tools in these different areas. We've got to put them all in one place.
Yeah.
And so that became CollectiveAI.
Prakash and I also talked about how brands can differentiate themselves as more generative AI gets introduced in the process.
I actually think that as creative becomes more automated, the volume of it is going to grow to an extent where it'll be really hard to stand out. And brands are going to have to work a lot harder to fill out other parts of their experience in order to differentiate. And that means you can't get away with just making campaigns anymore. You actually, as a company, have to figure out what you stand for and have a strong and differentiated position if you're going to survive and not be diminished in your margins and your costs and even the quality of your product.
This should all sound like music to creative advertising ears, or at least temporarily dilute the existential dread. AI may be helping evaluate and validate ideas in ways and at speeds we've never seen. But the humans behind the ideas and strategy are still an integral part of the process. As Deepthi said just then, the models constantly need new, fresh ideas from humans to work at their best. So anyway, back to my heavy metal toothpaste idea. We've got a name, some flavors, and a package design. All in about 6 minutes? I'm impressed so far, but David has also started to generate more marketing materials.
I can rattle off a press release for Plaque Slayer, obviously. Plaque Slayer unleashes toothpaste that rocks your morning routine. Introducing Mint Carnage. Toothpaste just got a heavy metal makeover. Plaque Slayer, the boldest name in oral care, is here to annihilate boring brushing routines and obliterate bad breath with its debut product, Mint Carnage. With the tagline, Murder Your Morning Breath, Plaque Slayer combines intense freshness with an unapologetic attitude to create the ultimate toothpaste for rebels who live life loud. Plaque Slayer is not just about oral hygiene, it's a declaration of war against mediocrity, says Jeff Beer, founder and CEO of Plaque Slayer. We're here to make brushing your teeth as epic as a guitar solo at a sold-out show. Say goodbye to stale mint and hello to Mint Carnage. With its heavy metal-inspired design featuring skull motifs, jagged font, and a black and silver palette, Plaque Slayer doesn't just clean your teeth, it shreds plaque with the ferocity of a headlining act. The Mint Carnage formula delivers a minty freshness so intense, it feels like a mosh pit in your mouth. No fluff, all fury, forget boring pastels. Plaque Slayer's design brings concert-level energy to your bathroom counter. Revolutionary cleaning power proven to obliterate plaque and leave teeth so fresh, it's almost criminal. Plaque Slayer is the oral care brand for the fearless, dedicated to making oral hygiene badass. The company delivers high-performance products with an edge, breaking the mold of traditional toothpastes.
More impressive than that, he also has a full business plan with notes on compound annual growth rate, a potential valuation, and an acquisition timeline.
So basically, the business plan, I mean, it gives the executive summary. We're building a disruptive oral care brand targeting rebellious individuals who reject traditional notions of hygiene products. It explains all the stuff we just talked about. The mission to transform oral hygiene into an act of rebellion, delivering unparalleled cleaning power and unapologetically bold branding. The vision is to dominate a niche in the $35 billion global oral care category by building a cult following of individuals.
We just need one of those billions.
Yes, exactly. We'll be more than happy. And then core values are all about authenticity, performance, and creativity. And each time, and I'm not going to read everything, but it gives you like a full description. It then has the market analysis. It tells us that the global oral care category is expected to grow at a CAGR of 5.9% between 2023 and 2030. It's driven by increasing consumer awareness of dental health. It talks about thinking our core target market is 18 to 35, primarily urban. And the psychographic side, it's individuals who really value uniqueness and self-expression. It talks about the competitive landscape of traditional established brands like Colgate and Crest, and the more natural and boutique brands like Marvis and Hello. It then goes through the product offering, the packaging, suggests a pricing of $9.99 a tube, so it's positioned as a premium niche product. It's giving us a go-to-market strategy, which is built first on a D2C launch with an e-commerce website. And it likes the idea of subscriptions for recurring revenue, doing digital marketing on TikTok and YouTube, but importantly, events and sponsorships. It's suggesting we partner with heavy metal bands and festivals, and we do pop-up activations at music events. And it thinks we should do in year 2 a retail expansion where we're going into places like Urban Outfitters and Hot Topic. And then it goes through the entire operations plan, how we do manufacturing, distribution, sustainability. It basically thinks we need about 50,000 when it gets into the financial plan for product development, 25,000 for packaging design, although given that I just did it for free, I think we can save that 25 grand.
Put it towards the taste.
It thinks we're going to sell 50,000 units in year 1 at an average price of $9. That's almost $500,000. Our cost of goods sold is going to be $3. Our gross margin, 70%. We'll break even at 28,600 units. It thinks the CAC, the cost of acquisition, the key metrics for success, it thinks it needs a CAC of less than $15. We want a 50% retention rate, and we want to aim for 100,000 followers across the platforms. And we even have an exit strategy, which is in 3 to 5 years, PlaqueSlayer aims to scale into a portfolio brand offering multiple variants and expanding into international markets. And potential exit strategies include acquisition by a major oral care brand. And
Papa P&G comes in.
Well, it is. You even saying it suggests Procter & Gamble. So I think we, if you're listing Procter & Gamble,
don't do it. Don't do it. Don't steal our idea.
As the co-founders of this brand, we're happy to sell today at $1 billion valuation.
I think I've got my next job.
No. This is when I'm getting in trouble because Jeff Beer resigns to launch.
Right, exactly. Well, you know who my agency will be, I guess. So obviously, David Jones is a really, really good salesman. I can see why he's good in a room full of executives, and the product is really impressive. The promise was a brand in 59 minutes. We created PlaqueSlayer in maybe 15 minutes. In a more complete session, we'd have time to prompt and refine to get an even better product. It's extremely impressive. But those fears we talked about back in episode 1 are still there. The pushback on those fears, again, is that AI will augment human work, but it can't replace it. Jones and Dow basically echoed that claim.
Again, one of the big fears people have is like, everything's going to look the same. And my first answer to that is just go look at a reel of banking ads and car ads and airline ads. They all look the same. This isn't an AI problem. This is a human problem. But actually, you're going to be able to do so much more to ensure that you can push your brands into different spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the same thing always applies in the sense of culture is pretty convergent. People find themselves in a very similar space to do a similar thing. And all of the best work and the awarded work and the art that you see and the bands you love are at their moment of inception divergent. And once you can start to understand and practice getting AI to do the same thing, it naturally wants to converge because it's taking everything it's ever seen and trying to give you one version of it at any one time. So it's going to be a bit of a generalizer. Right. So the trick is to find ways to give it stimulus, give it unusual ways of thinking in the same way as you would with any creative partner. You're trying to capture references and smash things together and collide concepts so you have something novel and interesting. The same is true. I think David's point about existing creativity, there is a huge dirge of very average stuff out there, and you can't blame filmmakers and you can't blame designers. So yeah, I think AI is as good as the person that wields it ultimately.
Well, I think I agree with them. It's still early days. If ChatGPT and Notebook and all of these tools can create a whole business plan and marketing strategy for a heavy metal toothpaste brand in 15 minutes without that much prompting already, who knows what we'll be able to do 2 years from now? Plus, bottom line, everyone wants to save money, right? And it's definitely cheaper to have a few people using a bunch of these tools than to hire a big team to develop a product strategy. As I've said and we've heard before, the notion of these tools taking jobs is very real. As excited as I am about the potential of getting ideas more robustly developed quicker, I worry that the promise of more creative, purposeful work for the humans involved will still ultimately mean fewer humans being involved. In these early days, though, I'm going to stay optimistic, as past adoption of efficiency tools have shown us, whether we're talking about Photoshop or the internet itself, ideally, we can evolve how we work to make the most of what these new AI tools offer us. Jones, Dow, and the Brandtech Group aren't suggesting the future of brand building is 59 minutes, but it is an incredibly effective way to show how a journalist could tap into his passion for oral healthcare and sick skull-based art to get a basic business plan framework so incredibly quickly. So, listeners, I actually have a bittersweet announcement at the end of this episode. After years of reporting on global events, I've decided to trade my press pass for a toothpaste tube. The world of journalism has been fulfilling, but my passion for heavy metal has always burned bright. I see an opportunity to create a unique toothpaste brand that celebrates this genre, combining bold flavors and edgy branding that resonate with metal enthusiasts. Just as I've sought truth in my stories, I aim to bring authenticity to oral care. This venture is not just about toothpaste. It's a way to connect with fellow fans and promote a culture that's been my lifeblood. Rock on. Okay, you see what I did there? I actually wrote that using ChatGPT. Don't worry, I'm still writing and reporting at Fast Company. We'll see you next week. Brand New World is an MIC podcast from Fast Company. Our producers are Yaz Gagne, Grace Snelling, Blake Odom, and Avery Miles. Mix and sound design by Nicholas Torres. Our executive producer and editor is Josh Christensen. Be sure to subscribe to Brand New World on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. You can also hear all episodes in the Most Innovative Companies podcast feed. If you like this podcast, leave us a rating and review on your podcast app of choice, or let us know in the comments of Fast Company's social media. We're basically on every app you can think of. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.